Hi, everybody. I'm Anna, and I'm sure we're all just hanging out, chilling out, wondering, well, oh my gosh, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? What are we going to do all day during this time of coronavirus? Well, I'm Anna, and I thought, gee, my husband and I, Greg, are both communication studies professors, and since we like to talk, we teach public speaking, we teach interpersonal communication. We thought, you know what? Let's put a podcast together and talk about our relationship since we teach this stuff and talk about how we're coping through this coronavirus. This is my husband, Greg. Hey, Greg, what are you doing? How are you doing?
I just want to know when you're going to untie me.
So crazy. This is what it's like to live with this dude.
Hey, well, this is one of the ideas of yours that I finally agreed to. You should hear the list of the things that I said, no way, I'm not doing that. Finally, we got to the podcast. In fact, you've really been on me to do a podcast with you probably for the last 6 months. And as you mentioned, we're both communication teachers. We teach at Solano Community College. We teach public speaking, communication, conflict resolution. And we know that a lot of people have been stuck in the house for what, 6 weeks now?
Yeah.
I
When
mean,
did we start? The second week of March?
Yeah, it was March 16th. I know when they had the shelter in place here in Northern California.
Yeah.
Solano College at that time converted. Yeah, there's a whole story right there. I've been teaching for 30 years and always swore there's no way I would ever teach a public speaking class online,
You know?
right? Where's the public?
Yeah.
Well, 30 years plus, that's exactly what we're
Here you
doing. We
are.
had to make that transition mid-semester from being in the classroom to doing everything online.
Oh, my
So a lot of
gosh.
different challenges that we've faced, but we thought, hey, cool, let's do a podcast. Everybody
Yeah.
else has one.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about our experiences and what's going on with us. And hopefully those of you listening
Yeah.
will find at least some of it to be entertaining.
Yeah, I thought, as communication studies teachers, I thought that we'd be able to, talk and communicate and have less tension and whatnot because we do this stuff for a living. But even then, right, we do this stuff for a living. We know how to talk about situations or conflict management and all that stuff. But even then, we still are two people in a relationship confined to a
Yeah,
house.
stuck in the same place for 6 weeks.
And having to deal with all of that, it was like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, I know how I've been going through all of this. You know what I never ever thought to do, not never ever, I didn't think to do, is to ask you how you are doing. Because you just do. And you've always just done, It's like, well, we got to go move on to the next thing. You are such a good problem solver. I sit here and I dwell. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What do we do? Okay, we have to organize and all this stuff. And you just like methodically go through the process. And you did that right from the very beginning.
Well, I was lucky too because I actually 2 weeks before we had the shelter in place at Solano on the 16th of March, right? In fact, it was right at the start of March, and that's where they discovered the first coronavirus or second coronavirus victim right here in Vacaville because Travis Air
right.
Force Base here in Fairfield, one of the first cruise ships where they had infected people, brought the people to Travis Air Base. Next thing you know, early February, we've got a person that tested positive for the coronavirus. And I was just thinking, gosh, being in the classroom and all these kids, I felt protected. I'm up in the front, but all the kids, and I've
True.
got 35 kids in some of my communication classes. So 2 weeks before, on March 3rd, I kind of did an unofficial, let's go ahead and
Yeah.
convert online. And instead of me showing up to class and listening to the students present their speeches, they just sent their speeches online, graded them there. Students love that,
Yeah.
right? They'd much rather write a speech, get graded on the written speech. And so that gave me kind of a 2 week head start. But still, I never would have been able to do the complete conversion to all online if it wasn't for you. That's the thing. I mean, you're just so good. You already are pretty proficient on Canvas. And so that helped me out as well. But yeah, a lot of challenges, but I kind of look at it from a problem-solving standpoint. Okay,
Yeah.
here's a new challenge. How are we going to get through this?
Yeah.
And we still have no idea what's going to
My
happen. My
gosh.
goodness.
No kidding. I was just the first week I thought, oh my goodness. At first it was like exciting, because being on Canvas for a few years now, you already have, students doing assignments online and everything.
And those
So,
of you who may be wondering what Canvas is, that's the
oh, true.
online software that we use to teach all of our classes online. It's pretty popular. It's used widely around the United States,
Yeah.
probably Canvas and Zoom,
Yeah.
two most important apps that people are using to be able to teach online.
Yeah. And so, lots of our assignments are on there. Like this semester, I was completely paperless, so students are used to doing assignments online, but then going from being in the classroom for half a semester and all of a sudden not seeing anybody for half a semester, man, that's a huge transition. And then look at families, right? And look at couples and whatnot. You're used to being out all day long, and all of a sudden you're in the house all day, 24 hours a day, it's like, what do you do? So, yeah, I thought,
Yeah, could you imagine having kids?
oh my gosh.
I
Oh
mean,
my
I know
gosh.
for us, I mean, we're still really busy just teaching our classes. In fact, our schedule really hasn't changed that much. I know you're up
Yeah.
early, your classes start at 8, and you actually hold the classes
Yeah, yeah.
online. My classes typically wouldn't start until 11, but I get up at 9, I'll kind of ease into my breakfast, and
Yeah.
then just go to my computer and see what students have turned in, do some grading. But we both have pretty much kept our routines
Yeah.
in place. And even though we've been in this shelter in place, like I think it was Thursday, we went most of the day and didn't see each other.
Yeah, I know. That was
Because
so
your
funny.
office is upstairs, mine's downstairs. We were both doing a lot of stuff.
Well, the first week, I was kind of like, it was weird because it's almost like time stood still. It's kind of like, when fire a pie and the week stays still, stands still. We used to coach the speech and debate teams, and this is around the time, this week, around the first week of April, when we would be at our national championship tournament. All the teams would come, converge from around the country, and everybody's at this resort for an entire week. It's almost like time stands still. That first week was like that for me because all of a sudden you're converting everything. You're not talking to your students, not seeing your students, and just trying to, how do you keep in contact with them, making sure everybody's okay? Meanwhile, you're dealing with that too, like, going through the whole process yourself and coping, and then dealing with your family, and then all of a sudden you see this there's a toilet paper shortage, so dealing with all of that.
Yeah,
But
I
then,
still have not seen a roll of toilet paper in any store since this whole thing started.
geez, I just don't understand that. But I mean, that first week seemed like, just go into a daze. And then the next week it was spring break. And then the minute we came back, it was like, oh my gosh. And spring break seemed like it wasn't spring break because that's when we were organizing our classes, and all that.
Yeah, I did more
Yes,
schoolwork
I know.
during spring break than I ever would.
Yeah, that's the danger. I think when you have your office in your house, there's always something else that you can find to do. It's like, man. That's the thing. We have to just time ourselves, and so that's why I like to just I like to just hold my classes at the same time. Keeps us all structured. We need structure right now because if you have 24 hours a day, that's a whole day. It's not linear anymore. It's not like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. It's just nighttime and daytime. And so in order to keep ourselves structured, I thought I'm just going to keep my classes that way so students know, well, I have to be here at 8 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays. I have to be here at 9:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays and that kind of thing.
And you're doing all your classes online on Zoom.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you actually can see
Yes.
all the
Oh,
kids.
and they really miss, seeing each other. Like on my class on Thursday, it was so funny. I mean, we stayed for an extra 15 minutes. And it wound up being all women too. And they're just,
Oh, imagine that.
and they go, we just love this, just talking to each other. Oh my gosh. It was pretty cool. But I mean, I just thoroughly enjoy hanging out with you because I get to drag you along
Oh,
with all of
goodness
my
gracious.
projects.
Yeah, I spend most of my time in the house in circles. I think in the last 6 weeks you have rearranged except for the kitchen.
Yes.
You've
Yes.
rearranged every single room in the house.
We'll have to dust everything.
You did the whole closet. I mean, there, just trying to find my underwear. It's like I need to call in a search party. Goodness gracious.
Oh my goodness. Well, I try to kind of label everything, but at least you can tell the difference between our sides of the closet. Mine is very, I have the rug there and everything, and yours is very masculine and dark and boring. I tried to jazz it up a little bit, but I couldn't. I didn't know
Yeah,
what else
all
to
the
do.
colors and then gray, black, and blue.
Well, what I did know do though, did you notice with your pants? I hung them the other way so they're so the I don't know what you call it, the crease in the backside is facing the wall, so it's nice and neat like you would see at the stores. Anyway, I try to do that.
Yeah, I'd already gone through and rearranged them the way that I wanted them.
I know you hate the hangers, but the hangers are those hangers are what keeps them still. But anyway, so well, we got through our first. That's the thing too, is that we're at school. We're lucky too that we're teachers. We're so fortunate
Oh,
with
I know.
having.
I just feel horribly. So many people
Yeah,
that, and nobody saw this coming. I
I
mean,
know.
obviously, but it's like you're going into 2020, things are going pretty
Yes,
well.
yes.
Up here, people were a little sad because the Niners lost the Super Bowl, but still, you didn't think,
Man.
okay, in a month, I'm going to be out of a job. And with a lot of people losing their job, they lost their health care in the middle of a
Oh
pandemic.
my gosh, I know.
I
And
mean,
here we are coming back from Fiji, it's like just coming back from a vacation, getting ready to start school. And then come to think of it, we could have been part of that. Since they say people had known about it since in November, right? We came back in January. You said something about it's probably a blessing in disguise that the Niners lost the Super Bowl.
yeah, Amber, that was an article that I was reading in the local paper. But yeah, but somebody said that, hey, good thing the Niners lost the Super Bowl. That probably saved a lot of lives.
That's messed
Having the
up.
big parade after, and man,
Yeah.
that would have been huge.
Is that silver linings or cognitive dissonance?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm not a Niners fan, so you'll have to ask a Niners fan.
Oh my gosh. But oh my gosh, sports.
Yeah,
Gosh,
that's been tough.
I feel badly for you. I mean, your whole life is sports. We have three friggin' TVs in our living room so that you can watch all of your sports. Mm.
Yeah, it's been nice. So, I mean, a lot of the networks, they've been showing a lot of stuff like a little bit earlier today. I noticed that they were replaying the NFL Red Zone from the 2019 season. I think it was week 6,
Yeah.
but they had the game where Tom Brady and the Patriots actually beat Kansas City early in the season. So it's
Uh-huh.
kind of cool watching a little bit of that. But yeah, absence of sports. I mean, just for so many people. And
Oh
I think that's
man.
problematic in the sense that sports still seem to be the one thing that would unify people.
Yeah.
And looking back to the whole coronavirus thing and this
Hmm.
shelter in place, what makes this even harder to deal with is it's so politicized.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a matter of science, but so many folks, they determine the information not based on the science, but who said it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you heard
Exactly.
it on MSNBC, right, and you're a conservative and you support Trump, it's like, I don't care what the info is, you're going to disagree.
Yeah.
On the other side, Trump says something and you're a Trump supporter, you're going to believe that. And I think that's where it really magnifies the political divide when we start looking to how we're going to deal with science, how we're
Yeah.
going to deal with the disease, how we're going to deal with this
Yeah.
pandemic.
Hmm.
But yet the facts are clouded by who says it, whose side
Yeah.
you're on.
Yeah. Oh my
That's,
gosh! You know what I love about this is that I get to hang out with you, and we just get to chat and hang out and talk because we're always so busy. We have to find time to just sit and force ourselves to just and hang out and talk to each other no matter
wait,
what.
when have you ever had to force yourself to talk?
No, just to hang out and chat with you. I love this.
Yeah,
This to
you're
me is the
just
best part.
what you like is you've got me as a captive audience member for at least 30 minutes.
You know what? One of my favorite lines in a movie was the Up Close and Personal with Red
Close
Robert.
up and personal. Let's get the titles right.
I thought it was Up Close and Personal. I think it's Up Close and Personal with Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert Redford.
You're probably right.
And you know what the favorite? Oh, what was that? Say that
I
again.
don't think you're in double digits yet, but you're getting close.
But you know what? One of my favorite lines in that two of my favorite lines of two movies. But that one, Up Close and Personal, is when Robert Redford
You
says
know
to
what? You
her,
are actually right. It is close up and personal. Where did I
no,
get
Up
that?
Close and Personal.
That's what I'm
Oh, yes,
saying.
that's
You're
right.
right.
Yes, right.
There, that got you into double digits.
But then anyway, so he says to her, "Why do you want to get married?" And she says, "Because I want you to be required to be there." Because he said, "I love you so much it hurts," right? And she says, "Well, I love you. I want to be married to you because I want you to be required to be there." And the second one, my second favorite line, is from Sweet Home Alabama, when they were little kids, and
Because I can kiss you anytime I want.
yes, oh my
Oh my
gosh. And then he
goodness.
goes, "Where's your husband?" At the very end. And she says, "Oh, I'm looking at him." And then he says to her, "Why do you want to be married to me?" And she says, "So I can kiss you anytime I want." And I love that. I just walked by your office and I just love kissing you on your neck.
And the movies I've had to suffer through. All
Yes,
three of the Legally Blondes,
you went
right?
to see Legally Blonde with me. But that's so cool. I love that. I love
Yeah, I
that. I
hate
love
going to
that
the
part.
movies like you're the only dude there.
And you're Mr. Macho. But yeah, you're very romantic. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, getting through this first week, and that's what we're so lucky, and I think it's so important to talk, because I
Well, of
noticed.
course you do.
No, because sometimes there was some tension, that first week, it's like, "Argh," I thought, you're trying to make a point, and I'm feeling emotional about it, and I'm just getting angry and you're just saying, well, this is what they're saying on the news and whatnot, and I just was like, no, it's not right. I don't feel that way. That's um, just getting on my nerves anyway. But talking, I think, is so important.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah. And you always make me feel valued. I think that's important. Thank you for going to the store, by the way. I'm freaking petrified.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't think you've been out of the house in 4 weeks, have you?
No, no. Just, going
The
for our
first two
walks.
weeks or a couple times you're running back and forth, but I think since then.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but after that, once we had the stay-at-home order and we just go for our walks in the afternoon, which is really cool. I love
Yeah,
that.
I think that is good. I mean, for anyone, it's shelter in place. You got to at least get outside, get
Yeah.
some fresh air. Of course, keep the social distancing, all
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love the fact that we've been
Mhm.
pretty much able to get at least a walk in
Yeah.
just about every day.
Oh, I know, that's so cool. I hope
Yeah.
this becomes habit forming for everybody. It's like now, like I was telling you earlier, what I just really missed most was like just having dinner all together with the boys and everything. I hope families start doing that. Just have dinner with the family, and that becomes a habit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too, like to look back at this time like years later, with
Yes.
so many people being confined to the home. I
Hmm.
know that I did read that domestic violence up a
Yes.
bit, but what I really want to see is how many kids are born from this area in time, right?
The Corona boom.
No, the coronials.
The Corona.
I didn't come up with that.
That's
I
a
read
good
that
one.
somewhere.
The
Yeah,
coronial.
coronials.
That's too
Yeah,
funny.
we'll see how many
Yeah.
coronials there are.
Well, I'm hopeful. I just love this, and I think this is a really good, thing to do. Just sit and just talk and just share how you feel, because I think that's so important. We need a connection. Like watching those people in New York banging, they're clapping their hands, banging plates and or pots and whatnot. People need some kind of connection,
Well, what
and I
happened
hope
that
this.
you started that here in our neighborhood? I think it was last week, right? What I haven't heard the pots and
I
pans the
know.
last 4 nights.
Oh, I forgot. I know that's terrible. Nurses and doctors, caregivers, they don't forget to go to work. I need to do that. Yeah. But I did put a big sign out there for our neighbor who's a police officer, he's an essential
Yeah,
worker. I
next
think about
door.
him all the time. It's like, oh my, and his family. We got to think about their families too, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are going to work, and
Yeah.
it's like you don't know who you're going to come in contact with.
Yeah.
I mean, working at the grocery store, the mail carriers
Hmm.
still out. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people still doing their jobs, and if they weren't,
Yeah.
we'd be in even more trouble.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We could talk about the next time how valuable teachers are now. Now parents have to be teachers, and teachers who are who have children have to be not only teaching their students, they have to teach their children, you know, and it's hard
Oh,
to
there's
teach
some
kids.
people that they've got kids at home, so they got to do the homeschooling, and you might have a parent or two in a nursing home.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
that whole fear and that worry.
Oh my goodness. That's layers upon layers upon layers, you know, people having to go through so much psychologically, I mean, affecting people physically. That's why, you know, it's so important to try to stay as much of a routine as you can. You know, it's why you see me running around the house, running up and down the house all the time. Like have to keep busy because you have to keep your mind busy, I think. You know, that's why I'm reading all the time and I have to tell you every new thing I learned. And sometimes you give me that look, okay, I'm in class now.
Yeah, it reminds me when we used to coach speech and debate, and then the kids would get out of their speech round or their debate round, and then you got 10 kids, and everyone wants to tell you the play by play of everything that went on in the round. With you, I get it with the books.
Guess what
I'll
I need
take
to do?
that, though.
Yeah.
So, in fact, tell us about the book you're reading right now.
Oh, it's called Hood Feminism by Nikki Kindle, I think is her name. Fascinating book. And what I've always thought before, you know, in terms of feminism, you leave some people out, you know, and I know this is controversial and whatnot. It's like I've never believed in myself as being a feminist. You know, and I just think that we women are powerful on our own. There are more of us. You know, I believe in what Eleanor Roosevelt said, that, you know, we are a victim because we let ourselves be. But in this book, what she talked about, she goes, her mother and her grandmother before her, like they worked really hard. They were single parents and the like, and they raised their families and whatnot. And they did stuff that feminists now talk about women should be equal. They were doing that already. They were the breadwinners in their families. You know, they did all of that, but they were left out. You know, and she talks really about women of color being left out of the feminist movement. You know, and when I think about that coming from, you know, from the islands, from Fiji, I see my mother doing that as well. Women, that's their job. They do, and they work, and they don't sit and complain about it, and they don't talk about the differences. This is what they do. Little did they know, there was a term for it. You know, anyway, so I'm reading that book. So to me, it's just fascinating how some women, especially women of color, are just objectified not only by men but also by white women and whatnot. So that's where I am in the book.
I
So
thought I was going to get so much reading done
yeah,
during this time. I haven't got to any of my
yeah.
books yet.
Oh, I really enjoy this. You know, I just love it. Like yesterday, just sitting around in that room and just, you know, and just reading. It was wonderful. Why you're outside working? That's good. You know, getting our exercise. But what books were you going to read? Didn't you get some books from your book club thing?
Oh, from Amazon
Yeah,
where I get a
you
free
get so
book.
many
Yeah,
free
usually
books.
with those, I always dare, and you know me, I'm going to read a lot more fiction than nonfiction. But the
Yes.
book I really want to read, and he was a guest on one of the shows we were watching the other night. In fact, I can't even remember how to say it. It's like Schlosselberg, something like that. But it's a book called Presidents of War. And I like history, and so that was
Yes.
a book I really wanted to read, just covering the different presidents and how they've dealt with war in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
why I like. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, and you really look at what's going on right now. We're in the
Yeah.
midst of a huge war right now. You just can't see the enemy, which
Yeah. I like John Meacham's book too. The oh my gosh, I don't know why I can't remember the name
are
of the
better
book.
angels.
Yeah, the title of it, but it's that's the second part of it. Gosh, my
Hope
goodness,
for America are better angels, kind
something
of
like that.
something like
Yeah,
that.
and it's great because he talks about all the different parts of time that we went through in our history, and how, you know, it's almost like it's very hopeful. We can get
Yeah.
through this too. You know, yeah, I really like that book. And then this one. But I think, you know, to understand what's going on, I really believe this. You know, we talk about how the majority of people who are dying of this disease are people of color, right? And they go, it's policies that happened before that have led to the situation that we're in now. And I think the book that explains it all is The New Jim Crow.
Really?
Yeah. read the book a few years ago. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah. It's like, where do they put people? Like, who lives where, and what resources are available to them, right? If you live in a more affluent part of town, right, you have more resources because your property taxes goes to that school. So of course you're going to have better schools because people make more money. In another part of town where people don't make as much money, that's where we have all the Title I schools. Where do the resources go to? People have health care, some people don't. That kind of stuff. Anyway.
The soul of America.
Soul of America. That's what it is. Oh my gosh. Yes. I read that in Fiji actually. And while I was, you sit there and get angry, but it's like, we got through that. Every little part, the 1800s, you got through the KKK, you got through the McCarthyism, you got through all of this stuff, and we can get through this too. We have to stick together though. Yeah. And that's why I like this. I just sit and just talk about, and just talk. I think that's so important. People need to connect.
Yeah, and today we just kind of put the headsets on, hooked up the mics, and said, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll find, we're going to try to do this each week, but each week maybe have a specific segment that we'll focus on.
In fact, maybe ask people have any ideas of what we should call this.
Well, yes. In fact, I think you're going to put this up on your Facebook page. And so if you have any comments, maybe things in particular you'd like to hear us talk about, go ahead and let Anna know.
Yeah.
She'll tell me. And at least next time I want the ropes to be a little not so tight, right? Look I've got scars on my wrists already.
What was that movie? Was it Saving Silverman? Where they had him in the basement?
Yes.
By his You're my captive. Oh, but worse.
Yeah, at least you're not Kathy Bates.
Yeah, I was going to say Misery. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I'm Kathy Bates.
Not there yet.
But hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I just love this. I get you all to myself. I love, and we're going to just talk about school, talk about our relationship, talk about us, talk about fun, talk about, getting around the house, the rearranged house.
We'll try to stay away from politics. That might be hard, but.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're very, I like to think that you're objective. I'd like to think that I'm objective too. I mean, I watch Fox, I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC,
And you respond to all of those shows differently. In fact, I can tell by what I'm hearing from the garage, right? Because that's where you'll be out here watching TV. You got the big screen TV in our garage even. But either, support, yelling. I can tell what show you're watching.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I can't believe you just said that. Oh, goodness gracious. But every once in a while, they have some good points. Like what Tucker Carlson does. He always talks about how students are getting screwed when it comes to education. When he talks about that, I can hang with him. Like today I was watching Chris Wallace. And he had some, a reasonable discussion about what's going on, and just, I thought that's neat, on top of watching MSNBC and CNN. Yeah, because it's exhausting. It really is exhausting. Another thing I find that's really good, meditation. I get to hang out with Deepak Chopra in the mornings.
All right. Well, let's go meditate, folks. We hope. I thought we were ending the show, and now I'm saying, okay, we didn't get into politics, and man, you just took that and ran with it. This should be fun, folks. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for hanging out. Say goodnight, Gracie.